know that by 2030, almost 48 to 50% of the workforce would be millennials, and you also have soil where you're grooming those students to go into the workforce. So then there is always the shift about millennials and the older generation, and how does this combination, how should it be a potent combination for people to achieve results together?
Yeah, in fact, the new term is Zillennials, as you know, the
Yeah.
Generation Z.
Yes.
Last year, we did our annual conference. We did in partnership with the Shiv Nadar School, which is the high school in Gurgaon.
Yes.
And we had a joint conference. So we had all these class 11th and 12th students who are 15 to 17 years old, along with our 24, 25-year-old students of soil.
Okay.
And they co-created this conference. And something very interesting came out of that, which was fascinating. We found that millennials learn a lot by using video-based learning.
True.
We also learned that they have far more global networks compared to the people who were millennials.
Yes.
And it was fascinating for me to see how these people are so easily collaborating with their similar age group of 15 to 17 in Europe, in Japan, in America, in Brazil. So they were not conditioned by geographies. They were thinking much more global. They were willing to learn from anywhere. So it's quite fascinating. So what I've been learning is that we need to really make sure that whatever we do, we need to recognize, because most of us are digital immigrants or digital tourists, and these are digital natives, the Zillennials.
Yes.
And so we really need to understand what that means, because, and so our teaching methodologies, our ways of engagement have to be very different to support this need. At the same time, I always believe that to teach who you are. And so you have to be the right role model and not be embarrassed by the fact that because you are older and because you grew up in a different era, that this is something to be embarrassed about. In fact, it is our duty to source wisdom from our past, including some of our wisdom traditions, and impart that in an interesting way to the young minds in the country and overseas, all over the world, so that people need to learn about indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
They need to learn from the local wisdom traditions of the countries. And they need to really learn from Mother Earth and the planet. And I think the millennials and the younger people of the world are very happy to have those conversations, which are much more to serve the well-being of the whole and
True.
not just narrowly focused on what is in it for me.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to adopt that kind of an approach, and of course respect the fact that a lot more gamification, a lot more with apps and tools,
Yes.
a lot, anytime, any place learning, make sure that we enable that to happen. And also give experience of the outdoors. Because of COVID, we find that it's not being possible for a few months.
True.
But take children out, take young people out into the outdoors, because I think the biggest source of learning comes from nature.
Yeah.
And if we do not make learning from nature a part of our curriculum, we are missing something complete, which we are missing something which is making people incomplete. So therefore, learning from nature, and that is, the whole concept of forest bathing that the Japanese talk about, called Shinrin Yoku.
Yes.
I think this is something that we are beginning to understand. We always have taken our students for a retreat to the Himalayas every year.
Yes.
And I think it has only now emphasized this in our own hearts that we need to do more of this work,
Yes.
working with nature.